I think that landscape has a big influence on my work. Landscape is kind of pictorial. You know, it's like it's a picture, and your relationship to what you're seeing is always changing and in question. And I think being here at the Calder studio, coming from New York City, it's a big change, and it's very quiet here, and there's no busyness here that I don't bring with me. So walking from the house to the studio, it's quiet and it's kind of idyllic and charming and beautiful. And I spent the first few months here noticing that I was hardly noticing it, that I was so busy with my projects and everything I was thinking about that I was hardly able to notice the quiet here. And I think that that working with that around me, I don't know if it entered the work exactly, but it made me aware of the tensions and stresses and busyness that are part of what I do, that I carry with me and bring to the work. And I also very much enjoy that these pieces were made with a white exhibition space in mind in Nantes and Antibes, but that this space isn't like that. It's concrete and rocks and wood, and that looking out the windows here you see extraordinary vistas and pictorial landscapes. And how those images mix with these pieces in the studio has been really wonderful. It doesn't stop these pieces from being made for a white cube. That is the kind of the contemporary situation that this work exists in. But it's very wonderful to bring the work to this landscape, you know, for this moment. And while I've been here, I've also been writing about the work. And the writing, for me, has developed into something new and something that sort of brings me back to the work after I'm finished in a way that's very useful and evocative, and maybe inspired in part by staring out the window. I mean, both these pieces and all of the work I make has it's a picture in some sense. It presents a picture, or maybe a movie. If you move around it, it becomes a moving picture in some way. And since the work is about trying to make room for surprises in terms of sense and meaning, where those meanings and stories and senses come from is always a question. I mean, I feel like the work is in some way a skin between, you know, what's visible and what's not in terms of the structure of the work, the conceptual or formal structure of the work. But in terms of the physical structure of the work, it's very clear and plain as day and matter of fact. And I think I enjoy that contrast, you know. Well, I think for me what's exciting in terms of the experience of the work is the jump between how it's abstract and how it's concrete or of substance. And I think that's true both in terms of what's visually available to you, that the work sets up a pictorial experience which is sometimes at odds with the material facts that it's made of. And also I think it's true in terms of the references that the materials have. my first approach to the material is to use what's there and available to me. So old materials are readily available for less money. And then I spend a lot of time shopping at places like Castorama here in France, or Home Depot or Pergaments in New York, places that sell inexpensive material for the house, all kinds of different material. For me, it's kind of an interesting question. What if I had lots and lots of money and could buy any material I wanted? Would I then buy, a Persian carpet instead of this inexpensive carpet that I've used? Would I then buy very fancy buckets, instead of these blue used ones? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. I don't think it would make the work better if all of the materials were new and expensive. And if I used a really expensive Persian carpet and painted on it, then there'd be a question about having ruined the Persian carpet that doesn't come up in this work with this carpet. In my work is that I see kind of two poles. One where there's a kind of chaotic layering of as much as can fit in the work, and things are kind of struggled to be able to exist, to coexist. And then there's other works I make that are more, I often use the word formal, that are kind of more, they just arrive in one piece. And I think that this work for Nantes is like that. It's more like one breath. And I experience those things as two different poles in my work, and they feed each other. And there are times that I like one better than the other, but in fact I think I need them both. That the piece that comes out as more like a single breath couldn't exist without the history of struggle, and couldn't sustain me. I couldn't stop making these pieces full of struggle. On the other hand, there's a kind of ease and, really beautiful quality to those moments. I can't really say that my work has a direction. I see it more as a kind of building on itself. And I don't think it's, going someplace. I think it's just a kind of building of experience and a making of history. And my working process changes because I constantly have more of my own history to respond to. And I think that makes things in some ways more difficult. That when you first start to work, there's a freshness. It's the first time you did that, and it's remarkable and amazing to experience. And the next time you have to respond to your first experience, and it just continues that way. I started to make my work in an effort to see, to become aware of how things are made and the physical world. I don't think I started to make my work because I was so aware and knowledgeable and skilled and rooted in the physical world. It's the reverse. And that I slowly come to see more of how the world's built and become more aware of this moment and my experience of material because I make things. And that's why I make them, to bring my attention to a place where it doesn't go easily.